Hey everyone, it's Professor Nagel. We're going to work through exercise 20-1, which is build a product maintenance app from Murach C#, 8th edition. This is the How to Use Entity Framework Core chapter of the book. So let's get to it. Step 1 is to open the app. We did that. Step 2 is to review these forms. So I'll let you do this on your own, but this is a type of application that we've been seeing for a while. We have product maintenance where you're going to be able to enter a code and get the product. And when you hit get product, it'll populate these things. If you hit add or modify, it will open up the add modify form, which if you're modifying, it will populate this. If you're adding, this will be empty. And then if you hit delete, it will ask you if you want to delete this product. You say yes or no, and it does so, and exit is exit. So you can look at the code and everything. We're going to be jumping in there shortly. Step 3 is to run the app, and you see that it doesn't work, but you can get an idea how it should work. All right, I'm going to close those down for now. And step 4, this is the section of add EF core and create the data model. So use the procedure in figure 20-2 to install the NuGet packages required to use EF core in your project. All right, so we're going to go up to Tools, NuGet Package Manager, and we're going to manage NuGet packages for solution. And I'm going to go to Browse, and I'm going to search for, let's just search for entity and see what comes up. What we're looking for is Microsoft.EntityFrameworkCore.SQL Server. Microsoft.EntityFrameworkCore.SQL Server. And we want to add it to this project. Install. Says, yep, we want to apply that. You're going to agree to the licenses. And you should have no errors. If you had errors, I've did this before, and one of the errors that I got was that when you download the exercise starts from the textbook from the publisher, it's set for .NET 7, and this requires .NET 8 or higher. So, go to your project, right-click, properties, and change the .NET version. Okay, we got that one, and then we need Microsoft.EntityFrameworkCore.Tools. Microsoft.EntityFrameworkCore.Tools. I'm going to install that. Step 5 is use the scaffold DB context command as shown in figure 20-3 to generate the DB context and entity classes for the database. So this is where you're going to be getting the entity classes that represent your database. And the command is one line. You can grab it from the slides. You can grab it from the book. It looks like this. If you don't try to type this, all right, you're going to screw it up. And important note here is that this attached DB file name, this is where your database is sitting. So the book assumes that it's sitting in this directory. It probably isn't, especially if you're in my class. We haven't been working in a directory like this. I gave you the database with these starter files. So if your database is sitting there, you can right click on it, copy full path. If it's somewhere else, just find where that database is in Windows Explorer. And when you click up here, this is what you're going to copy. All right, so you're going to copy this plus the database name. The directory plus the file name is the full path. Or if it's in your project, just right click on it, copy full path. And we're going to replace that C:/ before the semicolon, hit paste. And hopefully if we hit enter here, this should build everything. We're going to get a couple of warnings, which the book explains that we can just ignore. Sweet. And there's our models. So we have a model for the customer table, for the invoice table, invoice line items. And then this is connecting to the database itself, which we're going to be working on shortly, the context of it. That was step 5. Step 6. Oh yeah, we just did step 6. Review that stuff. Moving right along. Step 7, add an app config to the project. I would recommend you take your project right here, project maintenance, right click on it, add new item, and we want an application configuration file which is app.config. Add that and it gets added here. So what we're doing is that hard-coded in the MMA books context.cs that was created for you is a path to your database. And the problem is that if someone comes in and changes, where that database is, they have to recompile your application. Whereas if we put it in the app config and then reference the app config, someone can just change the app config file and not have to rebuild the whole application. So again, you can get this from your slides or whatnot, but you're going to add a connection string called MMA books, and once again, you're going to change where is that database. All right, so I'm going to copy full path again. That database is there for me, right? It'll be different for you. That is step one in this process. So we added a configuration string. And then step two is we're going to not use this. All right, so this whole line here is a comment. We can get rid of that. That's a Lambda function, right? So I'm going to just comment that out. We're not using this anymore, but I put it in curly brackets just so I can still have it. And one more time, we're going to grab some code from the slides or from your books. And we're going to, instead of creating this connection with it being hard-coded, we're going to go to the app config and find the connection string for MMA books. And this is giving us an error because we did not say we actually want to use this. Let's see if it's smart enough. Yep, we have to add using system configuration. So at the top here, we're going to have using system configuration. And notice the gray ones are gray because they're not being used. When I hit save, those go away. If you hit save and they don't go away, I forget, it's something like tools, options, code cleanup, right? And you want to run code cleanup on save. And if you want to configure that code cleanup, you can see what it's doing. It's reformatting. And that's the thing it just did, remove unnecessary imports. So one more time, that's tools, options. Just search for clean and you'll find code cleanup. Make sure you run that on save. Makes your code a lot nicer to work with. So now we don't have a hard-coded value in our application. We have that value in our app config. So when I go to grade your assignment, I can come into app config, I can change where this is pointed to, and I could run your assignment and it should just work. I don't have to recompile everything. We made it through step 9. Step 9 was just getting set up. Now we can actually do some coding. Step 10 is display the product maintenance form. Display the code for it, F7. And add a class variable for an MMA books context object. So right here, this is going to be step 10. We're going to say MMA books context equals new. Also create a class variable for a product object named selected product. Now, if you had an error trying to run this MMA books context, you might not have the using directive up here for data layer, right? I think if I take this, don't delete this. If you already have it, don't delete it, okay? But see how it has no idea what this is? Well, I can add this using product maintenance models data layer. And now it's aware of models data layer. It's aware of what all these things are, including the MMA books context and a product. So make sure we have that using directive at the top. Step 11 is the click event handler for the get product button. Here it is. Find the code that retrieves the value entered in the product code box, right here. And in the try below it, so I guess we're talking about here. So step 11 is add code that retrieves the data for the product code and assigns the result to selected product. So I'm going to say selected product equals context.products.find the product code. All right, product code is the primary key for that table, so that's what we are looking for. And then I can say, my autocomplete's really good here. If selected product is null, meaning we didn't find something, show a message. And clear controls. What does clear controls do? If I hold down control, it wipes out that form and puts the focus back on product code. Otherwise, we found something, display the product. So remember, we found this from the database, put it into this selected product. This is a class, right? This is a class like this. It has a product code, description, unit price, quantity on hand. So display product, what I need to do is take like txt description.text and put the description property of that product into the description field on my form. Same thing with, let's do price next. Txt unit price.text equals selected product dot unit price as a string. And then txt on hand. And I'm going to make this a number with no decimal points. So this whole thing right here, this was actually step 13, display product, making that work. And we don't need to populate product code because we already know what that is. At least I don't need to populate it yet. We'll see if I have to do that. We definitely don't need to do it at this point. So this was step 11. Step 12 is down here. Show something if it's found. Oh, and this is actually all step 12. Show something if it's found, show an error if it's not found. Not so much an error, but a message box. Finally, step 14, run it. And this is a great opportunity to see if everything we've done so far has worked, right? Because we, at this point, don't know, and this is where I'm getting a little afraid. So let's see what we get. At this point, we don't know anything. Let's just, for product code, put in ABC. And I don't think product ABC exists, so it should give us this not found. Okay, product not found for ABC. And it takes a little while in that first time because it doesn't actually load the database into these classes and everything until you require that. Now, we'll do C# as a product code because I know that's a product code. There we go. It pulled this from the database. All right, my money looks like money. My quantity on hand has a comma in there. Fantastic. Add, modify, delete, exit. Well, exit works, but the other buttons do not at this point. But believe it or not, we're almost done. All right, the hard part was just getting set up for this and understanding what's happening here, how we can easily query our database like this. All right, and I wonder, before my autocomplete wanted to do something like selected product equals context dot. Yeah, so this was the way my autocomplete wanted to do this. This is the way we did it. It was a little bit easier because product code is the primary key. But what this is doing is it's looking through all the products and going until it finds where the product code of the product is equal to the product code that we're looking for. And remember last chapter we were working with link, and that's where this becomes powerful. We're just scratching the surface here, doing something simple like this. But if you review the book, review the slides, you can see where you can join tables and you can do complicated queries and everything. That's why we learned link before going into this. And again, step 11 is not a very good comment, right? Actually write out decent comments for this. All right, turn the page in the book. Now we are going to work on modifying a product. So in the code for the add modify product form add modify product, add a public property named product that can store a product object. So right here, I'm going to say public product get set, and the default value is going to be null on this. So even though we're working in the code for a form, right, we can still create properties. Like we have product, is add was already created for us with the get and set accessors. And once again, if you have red squiggly here because it doesn't know what to do with product, that's because you're not using product maintenance models data layer. You can probably right click on that and use quick actions to add the right using directive. That was step 15. Step 16, add code to the display product method right here that updates the form's controls with data from the product property. So this form has product code, description, unit price, and on hand. So I'm going to say txt product code dot text equals product dot product code. Txt description dot text is product description. Txt unit price dot text is showing this as a string. And it's important. I'm going to strip out the formatting for a reason. And txt on hand is showing it as a string. And this is, I know this is a price, but I'm not going to put C in here because it makes it harder when we actually go to read it and store it back as a decimal. So we're going to just treat everything like this. That was step 16. Step 17, add code to the load product data. Is valid, load product data. That updates the product property with the data from the form controls. So it's basically this, but backwards. So I'm going to say product.product code equals txt product.text. Product.description is txt description.text. Man, can we like turn off my autocomplete? It's doing way too much for me. But of course, if yours is doing this, you probably love it. Unit price is equal to, we can use decimal bars or we can use convert to decimal, and product quantity on hand, convert int 32. So we're going to take whatever's in the form, convert it if necessary because unit price is a decimal, quantity on hand quantity is an int. And we're just updating this object. Remember, product is a property here, but it's an object. It's an instance of the product class. So we're updating those properties of that object. All right, now in the product maintenance form, the click event handler for the modify button. Modify. So it sets this is add equals a false. And this is important because when you load this form, if you're modifying a product, you should not be able to modify the product code. The product code is the primary key. You cannot change that. So when you go to modify something, are we adding it? No, that is false. And where that's used is when the form is loaded, if is add is false, we're going to say modify product, and then product code dot read only is true. You cannot change an existing product code. So it sets that is add property to false. It displays the form as dialog. Update this code to assign the selected product class variable to the product property of the add modify form. So I'm going to say product equals selected product. And that is not step 14, that's actually step 18. So you never trust your autocomplete. So we're going to take this selected product and assign this to the product property of our form, of this add modify form. Remember, our add modify form has a product property. So we're putting selected product into that property. And then in the try block, this is going to be step 19, add code that stores the updated product object from the add modify form into the selected product class variable. So I'm going to say selected product is equal to add modify form dot product. Add modify form will modify that product, and when we're done, we take that and put it back into selected product. Then add code that saves changes to the database. We're going to update that product. We're going to save changes to the database, and then we're going to display the product. So make sure you add some comments here describing what the heck this is actually doing. Let's try it out. We're going to find your book for this class. First time you run it, it takes a second, but there it is. We're going to modify it. Now, I cannot modify this. That's right. But, we're going to make it on sale. Now it's only $29, and somebody bought one. Hit accept. When I hit accept, it did all this stuff. It took from that add modify form, it took the updated property, it put it back into the selected product that we're working with in this form. We updated that selected product, we saved the database changes, and then we displayed it again. So Murach C# is now 2950, and there's 4348 of them. And you can test this by hitting exit and run again. And if you look for C# and wait a second, you'll see that it's 2950. And then we can modify it again. We can put it back up to 4950. All right, so you're writing back and forth to the database just by updating an object, an instance of that class, and then saving it back to the database. So you're doing this with basically no SQL. You're not writing any SQL queries. If you're following along, we just finished step 19 and step 20, which was to test it. It gets a little bit easier here on out. Step 21, it keeps getting easier. I guess that's the good news with this assignment. It's all downhill from here. Step 21, we're looking at the add modify form again. Find the event handler for the load, which is right here. And if isAdd is true, a new product didn't come through. All right, so what we need to do is make that product a new product. So instead of it being null, now it's a product that we can work with. Step 22 in the product maintenance form. Find the click event handler for the add button. Review the code that creates a new add modify product form. That's right here. Sets the form's isAdd to true. Yep, and displays it as a dialog. It did all that. Now compare that to modify, where we took the selected product and sent it in. We don't do that when we create a new one because there is no selected product. We're making a brand new product. So now in this try block, we're going to do exactly what it says here. Get the product, add it to the database, and display the product. This is all step 23. So let's actually break this down a little bit. Right? And this is more like the way you should be writing your comments. All right, so get the product. Yep, selected product equals add modify form product. We're taking the result from the add modify form and putting it back into selected product, which is right here. Update or add it to the database. Context.products.add selected product. And then let's save the database, and then we'll display it on the form. All right, make sure we save the database, save the changes. If we don't, when you do this, all you're doing is adding it to the products list of MMA Books context. Somewhere in here, there's a product list. Here we go. List of products. All right, it's just adding it to that. Only when you save changes does it actually write it back to that SQL file. That was step 23. Now we can run it and try it out. We're going to try adding something. I'm going to charge $19.99 for this, and there's 43 of them on hand. Hit accept. It writes it to the database, and there it is. All right, so now I can look up like C#. There it is. I can look up ESN, and there's that. I can hit modify. I can make this $29.99, and there's 99 of them. Right, so at this point, I can look something up, I can add, and I can modify. All without writing SQL. All I'm doing is stuff that we've been doing for a few weeks now, right? Just taking objects, instances of classes, and just making some changes to the properties of them. And, this, all we're doing is adding an object to a list. We're calling this save changes method. All right, there's nothing really new here. It's just the magic of the entity framework is saving it back to the database for us. Okay, that was all step 23. Step 24 was to run it, click add, take note, blah, blah, blah. Step 26, delete a product. So go back to the product maintenance form, double click on delete to find that. We need to get the description from the class variable. So the description is going to be selected product dot description. It's going to ask, are you sure you want to delete this book? Sorry, book, whatever it is. I guess it is a book. This is like everything. Step 26 is just do everything for delete. Go into the try delete product from the database, and clear controls. So yeah, I'm going to remove that product from the list. I'm going to save the database, don't forget that. And then we actually have a clear controls method already for us. I don't know where it is, but well, I can just click on it and it wipes it out. This is step 26. Step 27 is to run the app and delete the product that you added. So I type in ESN, we have to get the product. Here it is, now I can hit delete. Do you want to delete this? No. Hit delete again, do you want to delete this? Yes, I do. It cleared the form. Now if I hit ESN and get product, it can't find it anymore. Confirmed it has been deleted. So good news for my students, we stop at step 29. We do not continue with the data access class. Maybe at some point I will continue with that, but right now we're not. So you are done with, my class is done with 20-1. If your instructor, if you're not in my class and your instructor tells you to keep going, you are picking up at step 30. And you need to wrap up 30 to 38 on your own. Like I said, maybe at some point I'll have another video showing where we left off here, but for now, this is it for 20-1.